This is Jed Disler, and welcome to The Piano Maven, your friendly podcast guide to piano recordings. I had never heard of the French pianist Lelia Gousseau before the Mellow Classic label issued a CD containing live recordings of the first piano concertos by Liszt and Brahms and a radio studio recording of Gabriel Fauré's Theme and Variations. This label, Mellow Classic, has uncovered tons of archival recordings, mostly stemming from France and Germany, featuring pianists, string players, and conductors, from famous artists like Wilhelm Kempff and Walter Gieseking, to names that even hardcore specialist collectors might be familiar with, such as the pianist Lelia Gousseau. She was born in 1909, and she studied as a teenager at the Paris Conservatory with Lézard Lévy. She had a pretty steady and consistent concertizing career that was interrupted by World War II. But she started again in the post-war years, and she made a successful tour of the United States in 1952. After performing with the Boston Symphony under Erich Leinsdorf, he wrote that she is really a great pianist. Since Rudolf Serkin, I have not worked with a pianist with whom I had such immediate and complete understanding. Lelia Gousseau also had a distinctive teaching career at the National Conservatory and the École Normale in Paris, and she served on numerous competition juries. She died in Paris on February 14th, 1997, at the age of 88. Her Liszt Concerto No. 1, recorded in concert in November of 1953, features the Orchestre National de la RTF, conducted by Pierre Dervaux, and she's a Lisztian to the manner born, technically marvelous, and with a rich, full-bodied sound, not bright and brittle. And the orchestra is typical of French orchestras of that time in terms of the penetrating brass timbres and silvery-sounding strings. Also, the quick and characterful vibrato of the first desk winds. That's also true of the Brahms D minor concerto on this disc, which dates from a January 1955 concert. Unfortunately, this is not as well engineered as the Liszt, but you can tell that a serious and fully engaged pianist is at work. She takes time to articulate a lot of the left-hand melodies that often get buried with other pianists, and she allows herself tasteful leeway in passages where the orchestra is not playing. Although it doesn't seem like an overly fast performance just by listening to it. The total timing is actually about 45 and a half minutes, probably because you don't get a lot of the rhetorical stretching out of phrases that are typical of performances that come closer to the 48, 49, 50-minute plus mark. Surprisingly, perhaps, I find Lelia Gousseau to be kind of hard-toned and forthright and rather charmless in the Fauré Theme and Variations. She brings impressive independence of hands to the table, but the sound quality is a little strident and possibly undermines the feeling for color that we hear more in her Liszt and Brahms. Also, the piano in the Fauré recording is a little bit out of tune, which bothers me a tiny bit. Basically, it's kind of a square and not totally attractive performance. So, on the whole, this is a disc more for specialist piano mavens, and I suspect that I would return to it mainly for the Liszt Concerto and for portions of the Brahms Concerto. This is Jed Disler, and you've been listening to the Piano Maven podcast. Thanks for all your support, and I look forward to being with you next time.